Hi guys, it's Teresa. Welcome back to my channel. Today, as the title suggests, I'm talking about my most surprising reads, which means books that I didn't think I was gonna enjoy as much as I did. They're not necessarily like the best books I read, otherwise they would be in my best books video, but they're pretty good and I enjoyed them a lot more than I thought I would. The first is Romancing the Duke by, I think, Tessa Dare. It is a historical fiction romance novel, like there's nothing to it. I barely read these types of books ever, but I randomly picked it up because I think somebody on BookTube recommended it and I was just feeling like historical fiction romance. So I read it, and I also read the sequel. And they're very similar books. They're all about like a lady finding like a guy who's like a duke, or I mean, I think that that's like a lot of people's fantasies, to be honest, so that's why I think it appears so frequently. But like a duke or like a prince or somebody like that, and then they get into like some sort of argument situation, and obviously they end up together and they marry and whatever. So I thought the book was kind of fun. It was kind of funny. It seemed to me to not take itself too seriously, which I always appreciate, especially in those types of books, because you can't really take them seriously. And I just thought it was like a lot more fun than I expected. And if I were a historical fiction romance fan, this is probably what I would read more of, like this type of book. So if you are, and you're looking for historical fiction romance, check these out. I think they're not that bad, and again, I was kind of surprised that I didn't hate them, pretty much. The next book that was probably one of the biggest surprises I had this year was Red Rising by Pierce Brown. This book has been out for years, but I never really felt the urge to pick it up because it always sounded like something I wouldn't enjoy, pretty much. Well, like something that I'd read like a million books of before. And to be honest, the premise isn't the most original. I have definitely read some versions of this book before, but this one was really well done, and I was so surprised by how much I enjoyed it. It came out in 2014, so if you've read any YA in 2014, you've pretty much read all YA in 2014. It's kind of how I feel like it is. So again, another point in favor of this book for not being exactly like that. I enjoyed the characters, I enjoyed the story, I really was so invested in it, and it felt like just a better version of other books, pretty much. It definitely had elements of the Hunger Games, it had elements of Divergent, I think, or like just all of these like very popular books, but it took like good points of these books and like mixed them all together and made another really good book. Also, the sequels definitely go away from that kind of basic setup a lot, so keep that in mind. If it's something that kind of tends to turn you off, like this book does seem to be a bit of derivative work, but the sequels are very much their own thing, I think. I ended up giving this book 5 stars actually, and I binge read the entire trilogy pretty much that week, so all of the points to Pierce Brown for writing such a freaking good book. I was also really surprised by how much I ended up enjoying Alice by Christina Henry. I picked this up on a whim in a bookstore, which I don't really do that much, and these books tend to be hit or miss for me, but this was a definite hit, to say the least. This is an Alice in Wonderland retelling in like a gruesome, fantasy, creepy, kind of gothic way, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the characters, the story, the setup. It had like this fairy tale element to it, but was still very dark and definitely adult, and I just really enjoyed that mix. And I also really enjoyed Christina Henry's overall writing style, which made me want to read even more by her. So I'm so happy I found this book. I'd never heard of it before, but I instantly fell in love with it pretty much, and I really enjoyed it. The next book is actually from that same haul where I just bought random books that I didn't know anything of, and that is Euphoria by Lily King. This is historical fiction based on the life and relationships of Margaret Mead, or like at least a part of her life. It's set in 1933 in New Guinea, and it follows this woman who is an anthropologist, and also her husband who's also an anthropologist, and then a third anthropologist, and like the things today, 3 of them get up in the jungle pretty much. And it's really well written. It's very interesting because it has such a small like amount of characters, and it's sort of very limited scope in which it explores their lives, but I thought it was done so well, and like they all came to life really, and I could really imagine what they were getting up to. I thought the ending was really well done and kind of sad, and I just enjoyed this entire story. Like I had pretty much no criticisms of this book. I thought it was really cool, and I really am glad that I decided to pick it up. And you might not believe it, but the same goes for the third book. I also bought that time in Amsterdam. I had a really good shopping week that week, apparently. And that was The Courtesan by Alexandra Curry. Another random pick, that I thought looked cool. It's about the courtesan called Sai Qianhua who actually lived in like the 1900s, early 1900s, late 1800s, I think, in China. And she had a pretty tumultuous life, and her actual life is pretty contested. Like, people aren't really sure what actually happened, so Alexandra Curry decided to just fictionalize it as much as she wanted, because there wasn't really a truth to be talking about anyway. So she did some stuff with it, and I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed where she took the story, the way she developed the character of Jai Xinhua, and I just enjoyed all of it pretty much. I like historical fiction set in China, even though it was a little bit difficult at times to read about her horrible life. Like, she was treated very poorly, obviously, as a courtesan, and she didn't have it easy at all. But I really enjoyed the writing style. I thought it had a lot of, like, it was very atmospheric, it was very well put together in general, and I just had a great old time reading it. Then I have The Paying Guests by Sarah Waters. I pretty much picked this up on a whim as well. I did hear somebody talk about it on BookTube, but after that I went and looked at some reviews, and it seemed like this book is pretty unpopular overall, I guess. I don't know, but I feel like there's at least very conflicting opinions about it. This book follows a young woman and her mother who live in a huge house, but the house is pretty much falling apart and they have no money, so they decide to take on lodgers, and it's a young married couple, and the daughter of the house, this young woman, actually like starts up some sort of relationship with the wife of this couple, with like the woman in this couple pretty much. So it's I think set in like, yeah, it's set in the 1920s, and I thought it was really well written. It's quite long, but I didn't mind. I still felt like the story was relevant. I enjoyed where it was going. I enjoyed all of it, kind of, and I was really surprised by that, because I don't typically like non-fantasy books that are this long, just because I feel like there's no point to make them this long, and maybe it was a little bit too long, but I still really enjoyed everything about it, kind of. I was really invested in these characters. I was really interested in where it was going to go, and I just really enjoyed it, and I definitely want to read more by Sarah Waters now, that's for sure. So if you have any recommendations, leave them down below. Then I have The Widows of Malevich Hill by Sujata Massey. This was a 2018 new release, and I randomly saw it and picked it up because I wanted to read it. And this is a mystery novel set in 1920s Bombay, and it follows a female detective who's obviously having to face a lot of difficulties being a woman at that time in India, wanting to become a detective or wanting to work as a detective. And I thought it was really cool. I thought the mystery was solid. The character was really interesting. I loved the setting of India and Bombay. Like, it came to life in this book, and it was so well described, it was so well developed, that I really felt like I was there. And I love that this was a very feminist book at its core, but it wasn't trying to like force anything down your throat. It was well written, it was a good story, I gave it a solid 4 stars, and I really enjoyed it, and I definitely want to read more about Sujata Massey if she ever does come out with a sequel, because I do think that this is supposed to be a series, actually. Next I have Persuasion by Jane Austen. As you guys might know, I'm not the biggest classics fan, but I actually really enjoy Jane Austen's books, because I think that they're really well written romances, and when I'm in the mood for that, I really enjoy them. I really enjoy Jane Austen's style of writing. I really like how she can bring her time to life and like can draw the modern reader kind of into that. She didn't write these books for us, but I feel like that we can read them very easily, and we can get there to that place, to that time very easily through her writing. I also like the characters that she writes, even though they do seem to be all kind of the same. Like, all the male and all the female main characters are kind of the same in most of her books, and I think the female character is usually her. But I don't mind, and as long as I'm not binge reading her works, I think I will never mind, because I think they're good stories, they're solid stories, they're sweet and cute and romantic, and if you don't put too much weight on them, because I know that some people feel like, oh, it's just like her writing about her privileged life, like why would I read that? Like, yes, but that's like all she knew about. Like, of course she wrote about that, because that was her life, so that's what she wrote about. There's nothing wrong with writing about your privileged life if you're living a privileged life, in my opinion. I can't pronounce the word privileged anymore, it seems. But anyway, I really enjoyed this book. I think I gave it even 5 stars because I loved it. I read it pretty quickly, and I really want to read like the rest of Jane Austen as well. I don't know what I'm still missing, but there's definitely a few, so need to get on that in 2019. I should have put these together because this next book is also from that Amsterdam haul where I just bought random books, and I apparently was really lucky that day because I also really enjoyed this one, and it is The Boys from Brazil by Ira Levin. This is a classic thriller. It was written in the 1970s, and it's about Dr. Mengele, who at that time was still on the run, so people were still actively kind of scared probably of him, which I think is a really important thing to keep in mind for like the setting of the writing of this book. So basically it's about Dr. Mengele and like the Nazis around him, and like they want to bring about the Fourth Reich, I don't know how you pronounce it in English, Reich, the Fourth Reich, and then also a Nazi hunter called Jakob Liebermann, and like kind of they're sparring off. And so you have like the supervillain and like the hero pretty much saving the world from the supervillain. And I don't know, it's a very classic kind of setup, but I thought it was really well done. I thought it was really well written. It was quite suspenseful because the kind of contention of the book is that Mengele is apparently like he wants to kill civil servants of a specific age all around the world, and he wants it done in like a set time frame and whatever. And Liebermann finds this out, but he's like not really sure what this means, and he's trying to puzzle out what Mengele is trying to accomplish by that. And so the reader goes along with that pretty much on like this Nazi hunt, and it's just kind of epic and kind of cool, and I don't know what else to say. I just really enjoyed it. I was really surprised by that, and I'm gonna read more by Ira Levin now because I know he's also written other books that were also turned into movies. I don't know if this has been turned into a movie though, but yeah, I really enjoyed his writing style as well, so check this out if it sounds interesting to you. And then finally, we have The Cuckoos Calling by Robert Galbraith, aka J.K. Rowling. I've had this book for probably 5, 6, 7 years. I don't know, ever since it came out, I've had it, but I haven't read it until this year. And the reason why, I actually don't even know the reason why I didn't read it sooner. But I don't know, I didn't think I was gonna enjoy J.K. Rowling's writing as much anymore, or I didn't know how her writing would translate into adult works and like mystery genres and whatever. But I was so pleasantly surprised by this book. I really enjoyed it. I like the main character a lot, and he definitely is a little bit stereotypical, but that's okay because it's done well. Like if it's done well, you can do whatever you want, almost. It felt almost like coming home to be back in J.K. Rowling's writing world. It's always, I think, nice to come back to an author where you know that they will not do you wrong. That doesn't mean that I don't have other issues with J.K. Rowling as a person, but that's a whole separate story. I just think she's a really good writer, and this book is actually pretty good, and I already own the sequel, so I'm hoping to read that pretty soon. And that is it for all the most surprising books that I read in 2018. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Definitely let me know what you thought of these books if you've read them, or what was a book that was surprising to you this year. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I upload every Tuesday and Friday and Sunday for the rest of December. So also click the notification bell if you want to know when I upload. Thank you so much. I will see you very soon. Have a lovely week. Bye!